is John Davis.
My name is Terrence Jones.
My name is Kevin Martin.
Donna Martin.
The one major issue that you think facing African American men today?
Strong role model in the home. Due to, it's almost like for me, I guess, it's handed down from generation to generation. It seemed like we've forgotten the principle of taking care of our own. We run off into the sunset. We leave our nest. We don't come back in.
But to piggyback on it a little and put another twist on it, I think lack of faith and spirituality that connects to what he was talking about. That we don't push that today. You know, it's a lack of children believing in any kind of faith, God or even their parents, or they don't have any faith. And I think that that should be an institution in the homes.
Kevin Martin?
I definitely concur with the two brothers right here. Also just to add something else to it is lack of a structured, meaningful employment for the African American men today. There are meaningless employment, but there aren't enough meaningful employment. And when I say meaningful employment, employment that's going to have the black man to feel good about himself. He's making enough to support his family, whereas meaningless employment, whereas he may be just out trying to hustle a job day to day. Whereas if he had something more structured, more meaningful, he would feel good about himself, showing his children as a role model to his children and to his family.
Okay. When we think about the statistics on African American men and the incarceration rate, we know right now African American men and Latino men have some of the highest incarceration rates in the United States. What do you guys think about that? What are your comments? Why do you think that is? And anyone, whoever wants to start.
I did research on that. It's 8,000, excuse me, 8,046 Black Americans right now. It's 800,046 Black Americans in 2011 that I know of, and probably more now, that was incarcerated in the United States, which was 43% of the incarceration in the whole United States, when we only represent like 17% of the whole United States. And
So why do you think that is?
well, kind of like what Mr. Davis said, the generational passed down, and it even piggybacks on what you said, because if I don't have anything that I feel good about myself, and this is all I see, then this is what I'm gonna gravitate towards. If a guy getting money selling drugs and stuff, and this is like the only thing I see, and I look around my surroundings, and everything is poverty. So my hope is kind of down. And I look on TV, and they showing, oh, you can get the Lexus, you can get this, and the only person I got to compare that to is the dope dealer down the street. He got all that. And I don't have no faith that I can get that going out and get a job at McDonald's.
Right.
Because I haven't been groomed properly to have that type of faith and say, well, if I work hard and I go to school, maybe I can have that American dream too. I mean, it's just geared towards that. So,
Okay. Any other comments from you guys?
Well, I think it also, it's a socioeconomic crisis, that we're suffering in this country today. Anyway, Poverty, look at this country and where we're at with poverty. African Americans in general are living more in poverty today than ever before. Also with the socioeconomics, as I said before, employment, and meaningful employment, social detriments to society, lack of housing. All of this leads to, at some point, it will lead to high incarceration rates because African Americans or young folks today, they don't have enough role models to follow, enough positive role models. Just like you said, you see a lot of the guys on the streets slinging dope, doing something like that. However, if they have that in the home or somewhere in a family member to show them a different way. But at this point in time, they're building more prisons and they're building schools for our children today. And with that, at that rate, that's an alarming rate. And so with that, that has to definitely be reversed. We have to build more schools, build more training programs for our kids to show them that this is the way. There are alternatives for them. You don't have to be a sitting bill by doing illegal things. There are positive things. There's enough positive brothers, positive families that's doing the right thing that can put you on the right path.
Yeah, I think that's so important. I think one of the biggest problems that we suffer with is looking outside of our community for the solution, and the solution is really within us. We can continue to blame what happened in the past, but that's over now. What I see happening is the people who do wind up getting a good job or wind up coming into some good money, they move away and never come back. And I understand that because of the fear of coming back and being robbed or murdered, but send some resources back. Make some contribution to some of the boys and the girls clubs in the community. I think that's one of the biggest problems that plagues us. We'll blame everybody, but we won't take the initiative. I'm talking about, when they talk about middle class and the upper class and stuff like that, it's almost an insult because where I come from is no middle class. It's outcast. It's lower class. So to sit around watching them constantly middle class, it's almost like they already written our population off, because the people that where I'm from, they're not middle class. They're lower class and they're outcast. And I think the only solution is it's like it was in slavery days. They bonded together and they assisted each other and they helped each other move forward. But now one of us get a good job and we move away and never come back. And that's what I think that's one of the biggest problems. I did a lot of work with a lot of juveniles in D.C. and the biggest problem is the broken family, the broken home. So I think if it starts in the family, and I'm talking about from right now, with people right now in their mind start showing some different attitudes toward the young people, maybe as time go on, things can change.
Another problem that we've noticed, that in the jail you have a high population, again looking at African Americans, who have a mental illness, have an untreated mental illness. Right now the jail is becoming the biggest treatment facility for people with mental illnesses. Comments about that? What do you guys think about that?
Well, on that, you and I can speak from a very high point, a high level with that. With myself working, in the mental health field for over 25 years, I've seen, the evolution of it. I've seen it go around. And in the currently in the jail system, they are really using the jail system as a number of things. The jail systems are not equipped to handle African Americans or anybody who comes into the jail system comes into the system period, with mental illness. There are not enough professionals to treat them. There aren't enough African Americans to treat them because the jails are becoming more overpopulated with African Americans. And why is that so? And it also goes back to one, as the brother said earlier, one is your faith, two, in the homes, three, what role models do you have? And what happens, our young brothers and sisters end up in the penal system, and then they're labeled from that point in time, and they're gone on to be included as a number, as a percentage of not really having an opportunity or not going to be able to make something out of themselves. So they're held down. Someone puts a foot on their throat to try to hold them down. Because if they are given the opportunity, if they are given a chance, if someone works with them, hopefully that can be reduced, and whereas they have an opportunity to have that chance to be a better, more productive citizen of society.
Going back to something that you said, Reverend, when you listen to the debates, and I'm just tying everything in together, they did talk a lot about the middle class, and no one did mention the outcasts or the poor caste. Just saying, taking into account what Kevin was just saying and what all of you men said, if the focus is on the rich and the middle class, what do you think will happen to the rest of us, or the rest of us in the outcasts, when it comes to mental illness, when it comes to the jail population? Do you think we'll see more? Any comments on that?
I think a lot of pharmaceutical companies are making a lot of money. I work in the mental health field too, and I watch this thing escalate to outrageous proportions now. I work with young people who has found out that they could get a subsidized unit if they take medication. I'm reading a book. I won't advertise the book. They're not African American, but the person says that mental illness is when a person escapes their reality and becomes something else that they can better cope with. So, of course, if you downtrodden and everything's gone wrong and it seems like something triggers in your mind, I'm not an expert on it, but you become totally something else, and then you start finding out that you can legally take some pills or something and possibly get some help from people. A lot of people, that's the only option that they have. Or they feel, I'm going to say that honestly, they feel that that's the only option that they have. And I think that's what's really going on. And I think in the jails, we're being guinea pig with a lot of that medication because we don't know the long-term effects of it. And I think people are making a lot of money off of a lot of our pain because we won't stand up, we won't stick together. Back in the day, it was hard to hear about. When you seen a crazy person, you really said they were crazy. Nowadays, everybody has a pill for something, and I think enough attention is not being paid toward the fact that there's some people that's really getting a lot of money from just pushing medication on people. I probably need medication for some of the things I endure, but if faith and hard work and sticking with people that love you is the best medication that I've had in my life.
I work also with dual diagnosed patients, and I agree with what Mr. Davis was talking about. They come in there and the first thing they want to do is get hooked up with some kind of agency that will get them on the list where they can get an apartment and go take an evaluation. And a lot of them know that if I go around there and I tell them I'm hearing voices, if I go around there, I tell the people that that I can't focus long enough, or certain little things that they know as in their circle that they can say or do, they can get some medicine. Then by getting the medicine, they know the next step is to get a place. But what happens so often is they get the place, they, you know, and then the next thing you know, they done lost the place because they're still using the drugs. They didn't really get the treatment. Treatment is so different now than it was years ago. Now it's so passive, it's so pacified. You can't do this, you can't say this. It just got so watered down, and people not getting the help that they really need. And I believe that that's an issue also, because if you've been say you had a mental illness for a while and you've been using drugs for a while, and you just come into a treatment facility and they give you 30 days, 21 years of some kind of illness or some kind of poverty, and you haven't been taught. Then when you come into a facility and they only give you 30 days of information, then afterwards they give you an out care program that's not really hands-on. And it's like putting a Band-Aid on a sword stabbing, It don't work. It just don't work.
Mm-hmm. So go ahead.
So what I think needs to be done, and it's kind of like what the gentleman was talking about earlier, the educational part in our community, us, not outside, people looking for the government, because most times if you get the government or stuff involved, they want to tell you how to run it.
That's true.
So if we can like our people, especially the successful ones like Mr. Davis was talking about, can kind of like invest in our young men. Because that's where really the problem lies with the young men. Because you see a young black woman, she'll go out and get a job and go, I got 2 daughters. Oh, they're doing pretty good. And I got stepson. Case in point, and it ain't because my wife didn't raise them right. It's just that they don't have that, male role model in the home, like Mr. Davis was saying earlier. And we have to just come back and take our communities back.
Well, what happened? What happened? How did we lose, or did we lose a generation? How did we not have men in the home? We can start with you, Randall, since you just came in.
I think over the course of time, I would say even around the era of the civil rights movement, I think in the black community, we began to move towards different goals, living different lifestyles, and I believe that one of the things that the family in the African American community got affected by this, by I guess the flight or the desire to attain different goals, and I think somewhere along the way we lost sense of family.
Mm-hmm. Well, one thing.
Some of that was taken away.
Right. One thing, even with that, is at one point when you mentioned civil rights, around about that time, is when, like what you said, the government got involved with, and if a man went because he didn't have enough to take care of his family and went to try to get assistance, their thing would be, but it can't be no man in the home. And so the man, for the sake of them being able to still have something, was willing to step back. It wasn't like in earlier times or whatever it took, if it meant going out there, knocking on doors, can I get some work? It wasn't that type, well, okay, you're going to do it, then you take care of them. And we let it go too far, basically. And so now it's like, okay, let the government do it. So along with what was that? It was really generated to get the black man out of the home in the first place.
That's right.
If we really look at it, okay? And in the process of that, the integrity slipped.
Yes.
Okay, and we have not been able to recapture it.
Yes.
And on that, I'm reading a book, and I told Mr. Davis about it. That book I read is talking about breaking the chains. And I'm not promoting the author, but it's a good book. And it touched bases on what we talked about in the beginning of this segment. We talked about back to slavery days. It's a snowball effect. If I could come in there and take your wife out of bed, and you can't do nothing about it, then what's the vision of the wife on her husband? He's not protecting me. He can't protect me. Master's stronger than him. You know what I'm saying? So you ain't nothing. Then and that division in the family. Not to mention it was through all the slaves.
True, very true.
But we talking about just that very significant part about your husband is less than a man. And when you talk about when it got to the point where civil rights started, then now we supposed to be liberated.
Right.
But that's the myth. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
Because the system is still in place.
Right.
It's just been more modernized.
And then, and like those myths and other myths have been spread into the black community. For instance, that a black man is hard to find.
Yeah.
In my circle of friends, I'm from New Orleans. I have 4 friends, good friends, that are single parents. Men that are single parents that are raising their children, have raised their children. Most of them are young adults now. But you would think that if you watch TV, that you couldn't find a black man that's raising his children. But I have 4 friends, as I said, that are single parents. For whatever reasons, they aren't with their mothers. But they stood up and they took the position and raised their children. So that's one of the myths that we have. There are black men. There may not be a black man in a home, but there's a black man in the neighborhood that you can find. There's a black man at the church. We just have to find them. And also we have to, again, that piece of mentoring, like your brother was saying, that we have true mentors, honorable mentors that go into the communities and go into the schools and work in the churches and assist young black men to develop their manhood.
Yeah, I think the stigma is one of the biggest problems, like what he was saying. Even now for me, when I watch, and I don't have anything against Oprah, but if I watch Oprah and my daughter or one of my younger relatives, they follow Oprah, and the kind of suggestion that I get from that is don't get married, don't have kids, don't be about family, and you can be a black billionaire woman. And men, especially younger men, it's almost like, because I even grew up like that. I grew up believing that the family would hold me back. A woman with a kid would hold me back. They taught me in school that one child could be the cost of a Bentley in 10 years. So don't have kids. Abort your kids. Don't have them. Just have abortions. And that kind of stuff puts an imprint in your mind that the family is not valuable. That money is the only valuable thing. And we didn't really get to this point like that. Somehow we've taken root to that because it's almost like that's the only thing that we think that will save us. But we constantly look at people with money not being happy. So it's just such a stigma that makes you think that if you stay with the home, if you stay with the family, you're not going to be successful. Because people like Oprah Winfrey and everybody we know with money, they marry, divorce, they don't stay with family. And so it's a stigma, especially, I watch like my little nieces or something, watch TV, and then they become, I did it. I wanted to be like John Wayne, because it represented something strong. So I do think the power of TV and suggested images is what's controlling our community. We on PlayStation, we on Facebook, we everywhere else except right in our family where we should be.
Mr. Martin, talk about stigma and mental health.
Stigma in mental health goes back for centuries, especially in the African American communities, African American homes, because it was a recent study, I think it was by out at National Institute of Mental Health. They did a study. 1 in 4 African Americans suffer from some type of mental health disorder, mental health disease. Out of that percentage, it's to the point that it's not that they don't have insurance or anything. They will go for a first-time treatment. What the problem is, what they've encountered is, they don't return for follow-up care. And if they don't return for follow-up care, then they're back out into the community doing some of their old habits, doing some of their old things that they used to do previously. I grew up in the South, and back in the days, even probably before my days, it wasn't common for the African American families to go to the doctor
That's right.
to seek mental health treatment.
Yes, sir.
That's something that would always be kept. Okay, the family will take it, or the son, or he is okay. He just having a rough time right now.
Right.
But and then that was ingrained in our thoughts or our friends' minds all over. Whereas I think it has come to the point now, or at least it's revolving, it's getting somewhat better, that they are seeking out mental health services. However, it's still stigmatized to the point that we don't want to be locked down on a ward. We don't want to be locked down with being treated with quote unquote Prolixin, Thorazine, some of the old medicines and everything. However, also in that study that was done out at National Institute of Mental Health, it showed that I think the U.S. is made up of about 12 to 17 million African Americans. And to this day and time, it is getting better. However, I think the focus has been lost. Instead of focusing on our health, our well-being, and trying to get rid of this stigma of mental health, as the brothers were saying earlier, we're looking at, okay, what can I get out of the system now? If I can get an apartment, a subsidized apartment, if I can get Medicaid or any other city entitlements. And so the focus has been lost in trying to receive good treatment or reaching out to our faith-based community in the churches. The churches are not, to me, I think the churches are not doing enough at this point in time. I think there's which could be a very powerful mentoring tool if we don't utilize the churches enough. Just in the Washington D.C. metro area alone, there's a powerful religious organization right here, that's not being tapped into. There's a lot of faith-based initiatives that's not being tapped into. So I think at this point in time, we really need to get away from a lot of the talking and going out and researching and touching base and coming together with more forums and panels like this and getting more folks involved. That way, and getting the message out there, and that way we'll know, the folks will know what's out there, what services are out there, what services that they really need for them, and really utilizing what's in our own communities, because the whole community is changing, it's shifting. We look in the metro area today, everything is shifting. You can say 20, 30, 40 years ago, Washington, D.C. was Chocolate City.
Yes.
It's no more. There's no more Chocolate City anymore. The whole landscape has changed. And then it's not just in the community, it's throughout, that's happening throughout right now. So we really have to put on our thinking caps and not having a lot of problems and other stuff like that, but we need to come up with some resolving and resounding solutions for ourselves, for our families, for our communities, and really utilizing what we have here first.
Okay, well, why does, since you mentioned churches, why are churches so apt to think of mental illness as quote-unquote demonic instead of, I know we need to be educated in that area, but it seems to be an area that churches are very shunned from, because the first thing they say is it's demonic, as opposed to recognizing that it can be a chemical imbalance, or in some cases, some is because of an accident or something, and we don't even get that far.
I really think it goes back to, going back to the churches alone, you have a lot, quote unquote, a lot of old time preachers, a lot of old time pastors, that didn't believe in doing certain things, or just believed in keeping the secret in the home, in the family. Whereas, today you have a lot of new blood in the churches. Matter of fact, my church alone, we have a 37-year-old pastor, very down to earth, very up to date in technology and everything, and really expressing and wanting to do more in the community, examining some of these issues. Matter of fact, my home church back in South Carolina, they are putting together a program, a mental health program within the church. They have some individuals in the church who work in the mental health field, so they are putting together some programs right there. And I just feel, pastors, preachers today, and one of the other things, I really think they don't know how to discuss it. They really don't know how to, or what to do with it, or really, but if you just reach out to your congregation, you never know what what can be tapped in right in your own.
Yeah, because sometimes people in your ministry
Exactly.
that are members that have those skills or knowledge. I mean, those people that they can bring in to educate you on those different topics. Like you said, we're talking about the church, but on Sunday there's a lot of hurting people in those pews come to church looking for answers sometimes, and looking for directions. And I think we could do a better job empowering the churches, the ministries, and the churches on how to handle or how to approach people issues when individuals have mental health issues.
Right, and you also see in the churches today, you see more individuals with mental health seeking out churches. Because they're coming to church, and you can see some folks, oh, he's back here again, up and down, walking up and down, bothering people. But it's what you have in place, Okay, they're in the church to here to receive a message, just like you and I. They're here to receive a message, and they're human beings. They have lives that you don't know what they're going through. So they want to empower themselves at the same time. They have a faith foundation that they've probably been brought up on. So that's something. At least it tells me, okay, they may have a mental illness, but still, they have the know-how and the whereabouts to still know where to go to seek the divine help.
Right.
So we just have to build on it.
Yeah, being in ministry and stuff like that, it's one of the hardest things I've ever tried to start. Was like a group for people within the church, but not. It's like on a different night or something. Most people don't come out. Everybody will tell them God will fix it. Okay, but God is the one who created this program. So you got these issues, go to the program, get some help. You've been sitting on this problem for years now. I've never seen mental illness like I see it in churches, because denial is one of the biggest problems with mental illness. Your sister so-and-so, 1 minute she's friendly, the next minute she's evil. She's bipolar. 1 minute she'll speak to you today, tomorrow she'll walk right by you like she didn't see you. 1 minute he act like he your friend, the next minute he can't stand you. But they will say stuff like, well, God will fix it on his time. And I'm like, that's why God created this group for us to come in so we can talk and we can start bonding and helping each other. But in churches, they keep secrets. They don't want to tell anybody what's really going on with them. They don't want to tell anybody that their son is smoking crack at night. They don't want to tell anybody that their wife is an alcoholic. They come to church and they never come clean about what's going on with them. And that's, I think, is the biggest problem with especially black churches. They will not tell the truth about what's really going on. They'll come to church every Sunday and be eating beans and rice and don't have $1 to barely get a soda with, and they would just shout about the Lord and how good the Lord is, and then they won't do anything to get any help. That is one of the biggest problems that I see in black churches today.
And another time, I think it's image. It depends on what kind of church. The church I grew up in, it was all imagery. Go to church on Sunday, the churchy.
Yep, look good.
And it was just evident that a lot of people in the church had mental health issues, like bipolar, ushers, and but there's a piece in substance abuse treatment, the elephant in the living room, where the father in the family is an alcoholic, and and the elephant represents the denial.
Yeah.
And then everyone walks around.
Right.
The elephant, don't want to deal with. So we got an elephant in the church house, you know. we walk around not seeing that sister or brother such and so has a problem, and we just don't engage them. We just ignore it, you know.
And one of the things that I can talk about personally, I remember there was an incident that I was at my church, and I was friends with a young lady. I was a younger guy then, friends with this young lady there, and her father was the associate minister. So he kind of like ran things for the pastor. And I remember when he found out some things about where I came from. At first it was okay. The me and his daughter was friends. When he found out some things that some of the things that I came from, man, he didn't want me talking to his daughter no more. And then I think that's where it happens with a lot of people who has a past or come from a certain environment or has a mental illness. They're afraid. So it's a fear factor. It's a fear factor that I'm gonna be judged.
Yes.
It's a fear factor that if I come clean and ask you for the help, then now you're gonna treat me different.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? So the fear breeds the denial in a lot of cases, especially dealing with the mental illness and those people who come to the church and say, well, I want to change my life. I'm going to turn over and do the right thing. I want to start a new leaf. So I'm going to come here to you people. Then I come to you people, then y'all treat me like subhuman.
Yeah.
You know, so I think, you know, what happened with the churches is it got so trivial, it's so commercialized.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Because I don't believe that it started off that way. I mean, you know, and who you're building your faith on, most of them is on Jesus Christ, right? Even though they got different denominations, you're supposed to be building on the teachings of Jesus Christ. And as I read the book, he didn't do none of this stuff y'all doing. He warned y'all be careful with the leaven of the Pharisees. And these are the same people who crucified him. You know what I'm saying? So like, if a guy came into the church and he looked like what we would call a bum, he gonna get some treatment for the eyes of the other people. But you're not treating him like an equally man. Now he a charity case.
Yeah.
That man right on, he up down on his luck. He don't want to be treated like a charity case. He want to be treated with some equality. You know, even though he's down on his luck, it could be one of us sitting here on this panel who come into a church and, you know, they had some level of success. But now, okay, well, I lost the job, the comedy is kind of messed up. Me and my wife want to go to the church and ask for some assistance. And the next thing you know, you hearing it back on the phone. Somebody, yeah, you ain't even told that person. Heard you and your wife lost your job. You know, ain't told nobody but the pastor or one of the deacons or something.
Right. And that happens.
So the fear factor.
And then the person is traumatized.
Right.
My business out.
Yeah.
And I gotta go even deeper and hide it.
So now,
I gotta go buy another suit. Oh, he got a new suit. That's how it happens. Because it's hard to kind of camouflage what's been said, you know. You know, those kind of things. You know.
It also has to do with education also. You know, folks are not educated as to, you know, how to deal with mental illness. And really in the churches, you know, they don't deal with it because they're ignorant to the fact. You know, so when you're ignorant to the fact, you know, you basically deal with something, as a worldly person. You know, you would do worldly things, and if you was to, just like the brother just said, you know, talk, you know, there's a bum coming in here, then instead of, okay, come on in here, brother, we're going to try to get you some help, you know, what is it that you need, you know, so you really have to educate them first, and if they're going to remain ignorant to the fact, then we can't expect any more from them, because we haven't taken the time to educate them at the same time.
How to engage individuals that may have mental health issues, substance abuse issues. How to engage them, and also after we engage them, we find out what's going on. If they share, how do we link them to assistance? You know, those are some of the things that I think we could do a better job at equipping the church, the members of the different ministries in the church.
Yeah, churches be quick to put you in the choir, on the usher board, but they will not direct you to detox to get some real help that you really need. They will tell you how much God is gonna rescue you and save you while they watch you sick. And I've seen that happen so many times in church. And I'll pull up on people and say, I think it's time you probably go to detox or get some help. But their mother is a associate minister, and that's shunned because everybody gonna know that her son is in detox and strung out on drugs. Well, guess what? Everybody already knows.
Right.
You know, everybody already knows. They see you when you don't think they see you. But on Sunday, you put the suit on, you come in church, you got the mint in your mouth, you know, and you mentally ill. So the biggest thing that I see is it always boomerangs back to us. It's so easy to blame everything and everybody else, and I'm trying so hard to get away from that. It's us. If we all stand up, the ones that can, and reach out our hand, we probably can help some people.
Going to the recreation center, everybody did. There was always something to do at the recreation center. You know, I played all little league sports. Now these kids, it's like, I don't even know how we have an NFL because a lot of these kids that I see don't even play any sports.
Shunning away from it.
You know? They don't play sports. Everybody I knew as a kid played sports. You know what I'm saying? At least 95% of the community played some kind of organized sport.
And even in playing the sports, if you really look at it, it was one way of teaching us teamwork.
It's
not I in team.
Yeah.
That's what and along with that being taught when we grew up, that comes into our next subject, which is the unemployment rate with African Americans. Because they weren't taught teamwork down here. When they grow up and find the time to get a job, they don't know how to interact. Okay, they don't know how to submit to whoever is in authority. Everybody wants to be the boss.
Yes.
Okay, and so then when they don't know how to go in and act on that job, and they're out of a job, they want to blame everybody else.
That's it.
Okay, so our next subject is the unemployment rate. And so anybody want to hit it on it? Something.
The unemployment rate it's like what you talked about. The standards that we have now, it's almost like I'm not going to work at McDonald's. I'm not going to mop floors. Well, guess what? You're not doing anything else. And I think I'm grateful, especially for my mom's. She was a single parent, but I'm glad that she taught me the value of starting at the bottom and working your way up. You know, she taught me the value of hard work. Nowadays, hard work is almost like everywhere I ride, you know, you see these other different ethnic background groups out on the street doing all the work that we used to do.
Absolutely.
Because they say that we won't do it now. You know, we won't work for $10 an hour. We won't work. You know, one of the best experiences I had was when I was in high school, and one of our friends, and we laughed and joked at him a lot. He worked at McDonald's, and he wound up winning Best Dresser, and now he has a large company somewhere. So when I think back, he had worked at McDonald's from junior high all the way up. And that was like an example. If you start at the bottom for $5 or $10 an hour, you don't have to stay there, but you have to get that working desire. You have to become, you know, one of those people who, now I pride myself. I work 2 jobs, sometimes 3 jobs. I start businesses and they don't work, I start another one. Because I just have a working attitude. You know, I don't like to sit around. You know, I will work for whatever if I had to. But it all goes back to getting the proper education and having the desire to want to do more for yourself. But if you've never seen anybody, it's like what Terrence talked about in the beginning. The neighborhood, the strength that I saw was the guys that was hanging on the corners. Some of my relatives, the older men that were alcoholics, I didn't see any strength in them. You know, I seen their girlfriends talk to them like trash. I seen their kids treat them like trash. But Buki on the corner, everybody respected him. So me being a young man, I gravitated toward what looked like strength, not knowing that the long-term effects was going to be early death and incarceration and drug abuse. So I think if there's enough role models around showing people, especially young people, that working and starting at the bottom is the only way I think we can get somewhere.
You see, I myself was a single parent, but I told my son, I said, you will not be a statistic.
That's right.
Okay,
That's
just
right.
because, and that's when I was hearing, all children that came from single
Yeah.
parents wasn't going to be. I said, you will not be a statistic.
That's right. That's
okay,
right.
this may be what happened, but you're not the blame for
That's
your
right.
father choosing not to be
That's
a
right.
father.
That's
But in the
right.
meantime, this is this,
That's
okay?
right.
And when he got to the point that he wanted all the name brand stuff and whatever, okay, then get you a part-time job.
That's right.
My duty is to clothe you,
Yeah.
feed you,
Yeah.
keep a roof over your
That's
head.
right.
But I'm not going to go out there and take and spend $200 on a
Yes.
pair of tennis shoes when we need food in the
That's
house.
right. That's
The
right.
choice is yours. Which way we going to go? And when they called me and told me that he was threatening to drop out of school, I said, it's okay. Let him drop out. This is, mother, what are you talking about? I said, he knows in my house, if he drop out today, he better have a job tomorrow.
That's right. That's
We're not
right.
going that way.
That's right.
And he tells me now, he said, I appreciate
That's
what
right.
you did with
That's
me. I
right.
thought it was hard, and whatever, and I'm glad to that. I'm not saying it was easy.
That's right.
Woo, Lordy, it wasn't easy,
I know. Yeah.
But, to see to have them call me back now,
Yes.
both my children, and say, Mommy, thank you. I'm
Thank
glad
you.
you did what
Thank
you did with me, and I had to tell him, I says, now, even though, and he had children of his own, I said, well, don't take out on your children what your father didn't do with
That's
you.
right. That's
Okay?
right. That's right.
So I want you to be a better father. And then they think it's okay to go out and have a bunch of children and then not be the father.
Oh, my
I said,
God.
if she's not good enough for you to marry, then she's not good enough for you to lay with.
That's right.
That's right.
That's right.
And that's my story, and I'm sticking to
That's
it.
it.
Okay?
That's
So it helped. Okay, go ahead.
I was a trouble teen because I told you earlier about I had to change about the situation at the church, and so I had confided in somebody about my past, and they told the minister guy. But what I know, my mom was a single mom. My mom was running stuff with a steel hand. And she had her thing she had to go through with her family, so it was passed through generation. But she got 2 sons and a daughter. I'm the oldest, and she did not want her boys to be, some sorry men.
That's right.
So it wasn't no, you could just lay up in here. It wasn't that. When you got to, I remember my 18th birthday. She said that was it. She like, okay, she had threw me a party. When the party was over, my friends was leaving. She said, where you going? I said, I'm going downstairs. She said, it's time to go. I told you, 18, that's it. And, and back then you don't see it like you was talking about with your child. You don't see it back then, but once you go through what you need to go through because of not being responsible and wanting to be responsible, now my life is real good. And I thank her for that firm hand, because without it, I would have been a statistic. So I believe that that's needed now. Even if there is some single moms, that the consequences gotta be there.
But why is it that people aren't hiring black men?
Well, I think that a lot of us aren't prepared to enter the world of work. Let's say when we're small, that's the time for those different basic skills to be implemented inside of you. I remember being a child, we had to take our trash out in our room, and then when we got older, we had to bring the trash out on the garbage dump. On Saturday mornings was every other Saturday was the day we cut grass. My dad said, "Well, when you hit a lawnmower on, you got 10 minutes to be outside."
Yeah, that's right.
And if those 10 minutes pass, you have to deal with the outcome of that. So those things, I think my dad, for what he implemented in me, how to change a tire. A lot of young men, I stopped and helped them change their tires. You got these nice cars, you can't change the tire, man. You know? And but it goes back to not being condescending, but just showing them. You know, I've helped a few guys to show them how to change the tire, how to check your oil. So those kind of skills, you know, are being lost. Go back to work. How to look for a job. Young black men come in, they may have $100 shirt on, and they may have $200 pair of jeans, and they'll think, you know, the $200 jeans, $100 shirt, that's not the uniform to get this job. Come back, have black pants, gray pants, and a shirt. If you do a tie, it's a plus, you know. Making those little small steps. And I've done this with a few young men. They came back, you know, that work. Even like going with the court system is a rule. Don't go to court with jeans on, that kind of stuff. Yeah, so there are rules, unwritten rules that we have to teach our young people to follow. Okay, and once they may get a job, okay, now you gotta keep the job. You gotta come on time. You say don't talk on cell phones, don't talk on cell phones. You know, and I find a lot of young people aren't able to deal with being told, receiving directives.
Yes.
So those are some of the things that we have to work with them before they enter, really before they go to school, before they enter Head Start or kindergarten. Some of those basic things. You know.
Okay, so but I hear what you're saying. We got to teach them when they're young,
Yes.
nurture them in those things.
Yes.
But what do we do with those that have not been nurtured, that don't have these skills?
Yeah,
They're not,
We
you know,
have to
they
bring
get up
them in.
and all of a sudden they realize, wow, there's a different world out
Right.
there. You know, it's not about me anymore.
Exactly.
What do we do
have to
with
try
that?
to reach them and not try to do it in the prison system. We have to try to catch them. And when they come on the interview, sometimes I meet young men at different places I work. They come in not prepared, and I take the time and teach them. Come back and try this, this way. You know, yeah. Sometimes that one-on-one mentoring, that one-on-one information, it may sink, it may not. You may plant a seed, you may not even see the seed that you planted. It may come out manifest itself somewhere else. You know, but we have to begin to talk, and not to them, to our children, to our young people, and not just shun away or just, maybe criticize. Because they get that a lot.
So, but where is our patience, our endurance, our long suffering with those that are hard, those that have been hurt so badly that they're not ready to trust anyone? How do you reach them?
Okay, Kevin.
Well, preparation, at least for me, I think preparation is a big key. Granted, we really have to prepare these kids today. Granted, our parents prepared us in a certain way. It was some of the same values you guys just talking about. If your father had the lawnmower, you got 10 minutes to be outside. Okay,
Yeah.
so today, and preparing the kids today and educating them. Not just like you said, not in the prison system. We have to reach them before they get to that point. Even in the high schools today, depends on some of the vocational schools, some of the vocational courses that's offered. So a lot of the vocational and essential courses that were offered previously are no longer in the school system.
True.
Some of the school system may have brick mason, carpentry. We have to get back to some of those because not every child, not every kid, boy or girl, is going to go to college. Not everybody is college material. And granted, what society is looking at our kids for is to go in the military. And especially during wartime now, is that something that we really want for our kids? Granted, we want them to have a good education, but we also want them to have a sound foundation of having a trade, having a skill, of being able to go out there and do something for themselves. So, preparation, preparing them and teaching them at the same time. With that, but we have to get them to that point before they go out and apply for a job. We have to have seminars. Okay, we have to do some mock seminars. Okay, how are you going to dress? How are you going to prepare? Are you going to eat breakfast before you go to your or lunch before you go to your interview? How are you going to dress? You know, how you gonna look and everything, you know, how you gonna sit, you're gonna go up there like this and, you know, like this or whatever, and how you gonna talk, you know, to a potential employee and everything. So all of that is gonna have to be taught, and all of that is gonna take time, because not everybody's gonna be ready up front to go to a job interview. It may take 6 months, it may take 9 months, but I'd rather take that time with the individual to teach them now, so in 6 months, 9 months, or in a year's time, they're well trained, they're well prepared for that job that they're really seeking. If the individual has a liking, have a skill, and has the knowledge and something that he really wants to do, he or she will prepare himself for that. I really think, and just seeing, because, you know, looking back on myself, my first real job, when I came out of college in 1983, I was making $4.44 an hour. And I said, I got a college degree making $4.44. I said, this is not right. I took the job, I kept it for a year before I moved on. You know, but it prepared me for something better at the same time also. You know, and from that point on, you know, and that's what you have to instill. And not just relying on what someone gives you. Yes, I'll work there for a year, or it could be anybody. You take what you can learn from that job, and I'll tell anybody today, you know, currently I work in district government, but I would love, and I'm doing some of it now, taking it and building on and trying to do something else, teaching somebody else, you know, start your own business.
Yes, that's it. That's it.
You know, because where, you know, insurances are today, Medicaid, Medicare, these other government plans, the other entities that they're looking at, you know, nothing is promised. But if you obtain a skill, start your own business of some kind. It can be anything. You know, but this is something that we have to have the knowledge and have to teach others at the same time. You know, I have a 21-year-old son. He's in college right now. But back when he was in junior high school, you know, he didn't want to work, you know, and, you know, I said, oh no. Even during the summertime, I said, you know, we live in this area. I said, I got a lawnmower out the back.
Yeah, you can do something.
I said, you don't even have to go out to the community.
Yeah.
Go around, knock on some doors and say, Miss So-and-so,
Yeah.
I'll cut your yard every 2 weeks for $20 or $10.
Yeah.
You know, make yourself a little schedule.
Yeah.
I think he did it for the first year, first summer or two. But you know, then I did the job.
Yeah, you know, like,
But you know, but you have to show them at the same time also. It may not be something that they want to do, but you know, but at that point in time, it's not what you want to do. Something that you have to do at that point in time also.
Myself, I lived 2 lives when it came to parenting, because early on my grandmother raised me. From the time I was born until I was like 7, and my grandmother loved me, and what they say, love you to death. I couldn't do nothing wrong in her sight. And she died when I was 14. From the time from 14 on, I was solely governed by my mom, who running stuff with a steel hammer. You know, she's not going for nothing. So I know that we have 2 type of kids to become those angry kids, right? You have those who get too much loving, and then you get those who don't get nothing. You know what I'm saying? And they can turn out the same way. They can be in the same system. And you be like, well, hold on, this one right here, he came up in a nice house. They ain't get no consequences. This one right here, he ain't get no love. Everything was just, you know, you know what I mean? And it seems like that's the same results. I've been working in the field, in the recovery field for a while. And I know with my story and the stories I hear on a regular basis, that something has to happen, a jolt. It has to be something, sometimes like an atomic blast in their life. It changes the course of the people's lives. You know, because something dramatic can happen. You know, and that's sad, but usually that's when the turning point comes. So I feel that what about those kids that we don't catch early on?
Yeah.
There should be no cutoff limit, you know, because I was in my late 20s, you know, I'm not older than that now. And when I made a change in my life, you know, start going down a different path. But it took what it took, and it took some praying and some faith, and most of all, it took some consequences. Because I had no consequences to my behaviors, I wonder what I'm gonna change for. If every time I'm doing something wrong and I get rewarded, like a lot of these kids now, especially the young boys, you know what I'm saying? They just get pampered all the way to the grave.
What do you say to a man who is just coming out of prison, going back to what we talked about earlier, coming out of prison, you know, while he was in jail, he got a certificate, and he gets out, and he thinks he's going to get a job, and then he doesn't get a job.
Individuals don't stop at just that certificate. It's used as a jump start. Now let's try to get into maybe a university. If you're going to do culinary arts, you know, a lot of your brothers are coming out with cooking certificates in prison. Okay, let's get into maybe culinary art school. Or maybe go out and start attending different food shows. You know, there's always some kind of food show. And you got to network. You know, go out and start meeting people. Tell people who you are. And get involved. People won't know who you are unless you're somewhere. You got to be somewhere. So right after you get out of jail, you got a certificate and go back to the living room and play PlayStation. Then you're not going to get it.
That's right.
You know, so you got to develop those skills. You got to learn how to network, sell yourself. You know, and a lot of brothers come out barbering. I told one young man, he was a good barber, and I told him, I said, well, look, I met with him one time. I said, can you cut other ethnicities' hair? Can you cut Caucasian people's hair? And next 2 weeks I came back, I saw him, he said, I got something to show you. He went and got a little white guy who was an inmate. He showed me his haircut. I said, all right, cool. And I took a step further. I said, look, why don't you look at this? I said, I know a guy, he's a barber. I said, when you get out, that may not work. I said, think about maybe being a dog groomer. He said, yeah, you know, right, because that's hair. You know?
Yeah.
So I'm just saying, sometimes we look at the big things, sometimes we got to break it down and look at little other things that we could do. We got this skill. So you're like, you know what, I'm going to pursue that. You know. So, you know, the brother wound up doing the grooming, and then he got set up in Baton Rouge, as in Louisiana, cutting hair. Then he started boarding dogs.
Yeah.
Little baby steps. So those kind of things, you know, sometimes we have to help them by empowering them, giving them that guide, and sometimes engage them, ask fundamental questions. Sometimes that's what needs to happen, you know. So those things like that is a way of assisting young men when they're coming out of jail, how to find a job, or how to begin to develop those skills.
Okay.
Giving them a map.
Okay, you were saying, Lionel?
To piggyback on what Randolph said, just 10-11 last week, there's a young man in our facility, and he just finished culinary arts school. Okay, and I've seen 2 or 3 go through that school in our facility, and so this young man, not too young, but I said to myself, it's about us. We always say give back. It ain't about giving back. It's a giving that you have to carry on this next group of men.
Yeah.
It's a giving. I mean, it's a giving. So my thing is, I took upon myself is, go to the Nats game, there are 102 vendors to serve food. So Monday, Tuesday, I'm calling the Nats, and I'm going to find out, hey, how can I get this man for next year's?
Yeah.
Set him up, interview right there. I mean, that's what we here for. You know, I used to work in the defense industry, work with an inert object, killing people all the time. And my faith, whatever it was, hit me and said, hold up, you're doing something wrong. I grew up, we played Army all the time. Out there, and I'm playing real Army. The weapons I'm building, I see the tests, and they killing everything in the world. I say, oh, this ain't for me. Something hit me in my foundation when I grew up and said that I shouldn't be doing that. I need to be working with human beings.
Yeah.
And that part of that is to come full fruition. And what I did, you know, with this young man, what I'm going to do. And I said, that's what I have to do. And then 2 weeks ago, I had a meet and greet with the president of Vowens College. It's an HBCU down in South Carolina. Really, Denmark, my father's hometown. Grew up through all that. And he talked to us, as soon as I walk in the door, you guys are talking about the young men that come down to the college, they get into college, and then they don't understand the attributes for going out from college, getting an interview. While you're in college, they have programs and ceremonies where young men need to dress in a suit and tie. Now, just this year, it's one young man, they explained the event, we're going to want you in your best. One young man came to the event with yellow hat, yellow gym shorts, yellow t-shirt, and a shirt. And he said, Dr. Sell said, we told you to come in here. This is my best, Dr. Sell. So Dr. Sell is in the list with me and other people that belong to college. Can you get a suit for these young men? Just open up a closet. We have it at our place. We call it Macy's. Right there. RPC, right the closet. The men, they never knew about, you know, what it takes. And just in that little setting, that could set that young man on the right course. When it's time for an interview, he understands what it takes to get an interview. You know, you got to look like that person across the room from you when you go in an interview. You know, the paper is the first part. That'll get you in the door. We have to prepare them for that. You know, how to do that. But once you get in the door, you got to concentrate on yourself, but come across as a person that can be an attribute for that company. So the first thing is a suit, and then your education. And we know we're getting the education there at the college. We can always go. But the president takes a little step extra. It's about the person, and I see that full circle. Sometimes he has to intervene and come in and sit down with a young man. And we talk mostly about young men. Sit down with them and find out what's going on in them, in their lives. You know, at that level, at college level, you don't get too much of that one-on-one attention. College, you're supposed to be prepared from high school to come into a situation and function, be able to function. But he felt that this is a need. These students portray Vowens once they go on, and they have some very distinguished alumni. They have ventured all over this world, and the training is for global. And for me, it takes heart too, because 3 or 4 years ago, I had a meeting just like this with a group of men, and we formed a group called the Men's Forum, and we decided to adopt a school for young boys. And the school started with kindergarten, and now it's up to 3rd grade. Kindergarten, pre-kindergarten, because we sat around and we saw the data, how many of our young men incarcerated. We saw how many drop out. And we were looking around the table, you know, and going, what is going on? And the picture came back to us. We didn't blame TV. We didn't blame news. You know, it was the men in our community that we grew up. We're the problem. And only we can solve the problem. I hate the baggy pants. I hate all that. So we got to solve the problem. So we adopted a school, the Bishop Walker School for Boys, just started. And we said, this would be great. You start these young boys out in a foundation. And the key with this school is tuition free. And it's East of Anacostia, off Martin Luther King Avenue. Tuition free. Okay. The first year, we were begging for parents to bring their kids in. We got 12 boys and 12 parents. They had to sign an agreement, a commitment with the school, with the Diocese of Washington, the principal diocese of Washington, that they would participate. And from that first pre-kindergarten class, the next year, they were knocking down the door to get their event. Today, we had a ceremony October the 4th at the cathedral. We inducted the third year class and the new board of trustees. There's 65 young kids. And from there, we build the foundation. These young boys are learning how to function in classroom, but preparing them for globally, to compete globally in the world. First class education, function fully. They're black teachers. Their executive director is black. All those components in place. But the number one component was love. And I didn't understand myself. These young boys are dealing with things that are unbelievable. Single parents, right? One household parent, some no household parents. Some no. And I was stunned at how could a 6-year-old grapple with no food on the table, no mother, no father, grandparents. Some, it was just unfathomable. They would come to school, they would go through the structure of school during the week, and everything was fine. And then on Saturday and Sunday, Father said, I'm going to come pick you up. And he never shows up. So Monday, you have a young boy that is totally frustrated and torn. That's where I started to understand the same thing is with high school. When you're in high school and you've grown 8-9 years without a father, you're angry. Because the other kids in the class go home to a father. They go to a Redskin game. They go to a football. Even just to go out together, go shopping. So that anger is there at high school. So you feel, I'm not wanted there, and that's where the spiral starts. It starts at such a young age. So I had to get educated in this, and I see this, as a problem that, like I say, black men need to take upon themselves, and that's why.
Men at this point,
no.
Is it too late? Is it?
Never too late.
Yeah, one of the things I do too on Fridays, I go into a jail and talk to young men, and that's one of their questions, to come home with their past record and find a job. That's one of the biggest dilemmas. They feel like, one of my questions for one of the programs I was working at was, why do we keep sending them back home? And the answer to that is, we don't have any money to send them anywhere else. So they're going to probably go back to where it all started, where their older brother got guns in the house and drugs in the house, where their mother is smoking crack. But we're going to expect that they do something different. And that's not a reality. It's a real hard reality to send a young man right back into his environment that created him and think that he's going to do something different. So often my suggestion to most of them is to try to find somewhere else to go to start all over. I don't care if it's around the corner, I don't care where it is, but for me anyway, if I go right back into the lion's den, I'm probably going to fight the lion. And that's what happens when you go right back into the same environment. You fight the forces that be. While everybody else is laying up in their luxury homes talking about those people down there, you stuck down there with those people. You got to defend yourself and you got to live. So, but what Lionel was talking about, and what all of us I think is talking about, is it really comes back to us standing up and us educating people, not so much as with the same system that's crippling them, but with a different system. I told most of the young men yesterday when I was leaving the jail that the biggest key to all of this is to start trying to help somebody else. One of the things that I'm finding out in my journey is that because people helped me, it makes me want to help people. Because people helped me, it makes me want to help people. So that's what I'm banking on. I'm banking on the more I try to help these young men that's trapped in this vicious cycle, the more that I try to help them, that somehow it makes them see that the benefit is not getting help, but the benefit is helping people behind them.
Right.
And I think that's the big issue. I'm in the process of trying to start this program, and the biggest thing is we need to help. It's almost like anywhere you go, like people help like people. So for me to get out of that crab basket and not try to send something back in the basket to help some other crabs get out, I think that's the biggest curse that we do. We get away from it, then we never go back and help
That's right.
anybody.
That's right.
You know, we ride off into the sunset, we get our degrees, we get our good jobs, we get our good families, and then we watch the news and say, those poor people down there. You know, I think that's one of the biggest problems that we face. So if we start creating jobs and we start our own businesses, that's why I constantly try to start businesses, hoping that I can employ. That's what I want to do. I want to be in a position that we need to be in a position that we can employ. Because it looks like they're not going to do it, whoever they are. It looks like they're not going to do it, you know. And why would they when the results are always appear to be the same? You help this guy that just came home from jail and he rips you off. So most people, they have that fear factor. Why would I want to help him? His record speaks for itself. He's been in and out of prison all his life. And this is the stuff I talk about to the inmates, because it starts with the individual themselves, and then you reach back out and you hope that you touch some other people. It's like you don't learn this, you catch it. It's not something you learn. You catch this. You catch the desire to uplift your race. You catch the desire to uplift the people that you see falling. You don't learn it. You can read all the books in the world. You won't learn. You won't learn how to care about other people. And the first thing I'm learning is that people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. You can talk all you want to a group of people, and if you don't care about them, they don't really want to hear it.
So we want to switch a little bit. We want to talk this time about impact of untreated mental illnesses.
I'll start off with that one. The impact, I feel the impact of untreated mental illness, you know, this too also goes back to the socioeconomic of society, because what happens is if you have individuals, you know, the illnesses are untreated, what ends up happening? It goes back and they're back into the system. They fall back the same cycle that you were talking about all over again. And so what has to happen is we have to create opportunities to alleviate them from going back into the system. And in order to do that, then they will have benefits. They can have more meaningful employment. That way they will have the benefits and able to seek treatment, seek a more professional assistance that correlates with them in being treated professionally and being treated rightfully at the same time also. I also want to touch on just on the poverty piece, because that impacts it also. When you have kids growing up in foster homes, in the system, they're in DYRS, they're in CFSA, they're in the mental health system, they're in the prison population. All of this contributes to their, just to their living, their likening, and what they see as probably being right and the only way for them. So with that, we have to change, and it goes back to stigmatizing, all of it. It's just going to touch base on each component of it. As we just have to educate them, continue to educate them rightfully, thoroughly at the same time, empowering them at the same time too, because an individual will feel or have more self-worth if he is able to empower himself first. You have to feel good about yourself first before anybody's going to do anything, or you feel that somebody's not helping you. You know, if you feel good about yourself, you know, but that too also has to be taught. You know, if no one teaches the individual, or he doesn't see it from anybody else, then where's he going to get it from? You know, grandma or granddad has gone on, you know, this day and time. Dad is not there, or uncle's not there. And a lot of times, you know, it's not because dad didn't want to be there. Dad may have been teaching him in a different way. Dad may not have been in the household, but dad was out working. And what I mean by that is dad was out, he was showing him, I'm out working, coming home on the weekends because I was providing for my family at the same time also. Dad's job caused him, yes, to be out, to be away from home. Yes, mom raised the kids in the household, but dad was out making a living, bringing monies home, was providing for the family at the same time also. So we really have to really look at how this impacts and what we can do to stop this at this point in time also, because we don't want this to go on for generations after generations after generations. And you know, we just have to come together and really put some programs in place at the same time. And I really think we need to hold the penal system accountable for a lot of this also. Just going back to something that you said earlier, you know, the penal system, you know, granted, you know, the individual may get a certificate, you know, while they're incarcerated, but why isn't there a program to work with the families, you know, of this individual, instead of that individual going back to that same community and getting involved in the same thing, working with the families? Okay, you know, John is coming home in 6 months, you know, if everything goes okay, you know, how's the living condition here? You know, what is it, you know, that, you know, the government or whoever can do to assist this individual? Churches, faith-based churches needs to step up their game also. We have to look at, okay, you know, look at transitional homes instead of as alternatives. Instead of going home, okay, I don't want to get back into the same rut that I was in, running with my boys, out drinking, out smoking, getting high and everything. Okay, it may be a transitional home somewhere across town that's going to help me out there, that, you know, at some point in time, I might can help moms or sister or brother out and moving them from out of that community, moving them out the way I am. So we really have to look at it as a whole right now.
Question about mental illness, about the healthcare safety net in the African American community. I mean, somebody has to really look at that, because, you know, preventative care is the key. And I found out if you don't address that with the whole family, I mean, where do we go in that community for just basic health care? To me, then mental illness can be seeked out very early. You know, there could be family history, there could be something that happened, prenatal care, there could have been something, you know. You have to address this at an early age, and then, you know, because always they come up with, we treat that symptom with medication, you know. It could have been something way ahead of time that they could have identified early on. So I think healthcare is pivotal in our community, especially those that are in low-income communities. I mean, we had to put more pressure on the governments, you know, to provide basic health care, you know. And even to the point, like you said, faith-based communities, if you look up, you know, that could be the start there. Galvanize them to do health screenings, things that we're going, my church, 2 or 3 doctors. Well, what are you doing when you ain't doctoring, making money? Why you ain't here doing blood tests? You know, we have elderly population. You know, maybe you could set up and have flu shots for us. You know,
Something.
maybe you can bring somebody in.
Yeah.
You know, we always, you know, you look for the government to provide it, but I think we got enough doctors, lawyers, research people in.
We do.
You can write a grant and get, you know, 200,000, maybe less than that, to just have a yearly clinic for the people in the community. You know, thinking back the 8th Street corridor, all the churches on there. Now it's regentrified, you know.
Yes.
If you go down there,
Yes.
and then
We not there.
we're not there, you know. But they're doing those things that should have, we've been there 50, 60 years that they're doing. They having health fair every week. They're having a festival every week.
Yeah.
You know, they're doing all those things
Yeah, they are.
that we missed out. I mean, we're, you know, it comes back to us. You
Comes
know.
back to us.
Come back to us. If we can get those people together with our doctors, the lawyers, and all those people together and just say, hey, one weekend,
Yes.
can we do this in
Yes.
this one community?
Yes.
You know, I think then those little things that you do, you know, little things you touch, somebody will touch the whole world. 'Cause
Yes, it
I
will.
think they will spread it
Yes, it will.
worldwide.
Yes, it will.
And untreated mental illness, it prevents a person, in this case a man, from being able to manage his life.
Mm-hmm.
It also prevents him to obtain opportunities that he would have if he had his life, or was able to manage his life. It affects the community because that one person can impact the entire community in a positive way, but what happens, it often impacts the community in a negative way. And so that's my piece on what happens with untreated mental health issues.
So now we want to talk about the suicide rate of African American men.
I had a young kid. He had some kids by my next door neighbor, and periodically I used to talk to him. He was also smoking PCP, and I used to talk to him a lot when I would come out and see him outside. They had a couple incidents where the police had to come there, but he was really a good kid. You know, I guess he was around about 23 or something, and he hung himself. He hung himself, and he really never got the help he needed. You know, and I used to try to point him in direction. You can come here, I'll give you a number, get this, and his thing was couldn't find a job, couldn't read too well. You know, he didn't. You know, these was all the reasons, but it was never really dealt with. The mental illness was never dealt with, and now you put PCP on top of it.
For one, suicide is not the answer, you know, because what you do is, yes, you have taken yourself out, but if you have children, you know, the children is still there, left to suffer. Your parents, other family members are left to suffer, emotionally, spiritually, and financially. Because financially, you know, if you know, insurance companies don't pay for suicide. You know, so with that, you know, and so it really boils down to, as he said, you know, them getting the help that they need, you know, from the beginning at some point, or catching it early intervention. And, you know, with early intervention, at least, you know, because an individual could also be thinking about it, you know, having suicidal thoughts. You don't know if they have a plan in place or not, you know, but one day you walk in your child's room and you see a note, you know, saying you found a note, you know, they already have it all dressed out, you know, how they're going to do it, what they're going to do, and when they're going to do it, you know, but with early intervention, if you know, with that, if we can, you know, at least focus on that piece of it, you know, getting the individual the help that they need, hopefully, because, you know, the suicide rate amongst African Americans has gone up, I would say within the last 20 years.
And why is that?
I really think, you know, just mental health services in general, being stigmatized, that not the families are not dealing with it, or they're feeling that, okay, there's nothing wrong with Johnny Boy. You know, he just going through, he broke up with his girlfriend or something like that. He lost his job. But, you know, you don't know exactly, he may, one good reason or one good thing that you can tell when somebody is really contemplating is when they, you know, if you have an active and a vibrant child, and eventually all of a sudden they start becoming depressed, withdrawn, not talking on the phone as much, not interacting with, you know, his buddies a whole lot, don't want to go. Those are early warning signs for you right there. Believe me, those are early warning signs. So if you have those signs, at least that's an opportunity for intervention right there. Seek the help at that point in time right there. Granted, and then, you know, whatever else comes upon it from that point, and at least, you know, you have a baseline from that point too. So, you know, you don't want to come home one day and, you know, just like you said, you found the boy was hanging in the bedroom or in the basement or something. You know, that is very devastating for anybody. Having to witness or, you know, to find their child, find their brother or sibling, you know. So, you know, early detection, early intervention, you know, really is a key. And it's not always just medication. You know, providing medication. Okay, he's depressed. Let's give him this. You have to get to the root of it to really find out what is the root. What's the contributing factor? That's it. Okay, we're gonna deal with the depression right now. Okay. But what's the contributing factor, and how can we best serve you at this point in time?
Because we're talking intervention, what if you have an individual that does not respond to the intervention that's been given to them? You know, you're showing that you care, and, you know, you want to tap into whatever is causing them to go, but they don't respond to you. What do you do then?
It's not always you. You can't just rely on yourself at the same time too. Seek professional help. At some point in time. Because granted, we're going to treat our loved ones in a special way, in a way that we feel, in a nurturing way that we feel that they probably need. But if you seek the professional help that's going to get to the root of it, it may take a couple of times. It may not just be one time, 2 times. It may take, just like someone going through rehab. It could be 3, 4, 5, and 6 times before they really get it. And so you really have, and if you can get with a company or get with an individual, you know, and it's just like I said, it's not always about medication. You know, there's a whole lot of holistic approaches, there's a whole lot of earthly ways of doing things also. So, but, you know, getting to that and sticking with it. Don't give up on the first time or the second time. You know, just keep plugging along and let it, but don't deny the individual the love and the nurturing. Yes, they're going to need that in conjunction with whatever professional help that they're getting on the outside too.
Since we're, you know, recording this, we're basically, you're telling that loved one to pursue to the fullest extent, and don't expect that individual to be doing it, but take the responsibility on their behalf.
Exactly.
Like intercession.
Exactly.
Because, you know, a lot of times they say, well, you need to go get this, you need to go do it. But then we need to know what the individual need to do themselves to help that person, as opposed to expecting them to go out. Because they're in a state where they're helpless, basically, at that point. You know.
And also, you know, a lot of individuals have suicidal ideations, thoughts of suicide. And also, you know, if a person, if a young man tells you he had these thoughts, and in my opinion, suicide is a decision, and it's a final decision. And that's something, sometimes when you give them that kind of language, it's final. You decide. I had a client, attempted suicide in the process of hanging, changed his mind. He was able to get the rope or string, whatever, loosened. And he like, I didn't realize that was going to be it for me.
Yeah.
So those kind of things, we have to sometimes play the whole tape
All the way
to individuals and not give people just the milk and sugar, but give them the whole, give them the meat. This is what's going to happen. It's fine. There's no coming back from it.
Yasha went and that word again, denial.
Yes,
You
big
know,
denial.
pride. Okay, all these things we need to, when it comes to dealing with all the stuff that we're dealing with,
Right.
you know, the mental illness, the suicide rate, and all these things. We got to get rid of all this, that other stuff, so that we're talking about intervention. We having these forums, but then afterward, what goes on?
That's
Because
right.
we hear a lot of talk,
Right.
you know, and no, it's not going to always be light for those that choose to step up to the plate.
Right.
Okay, but as you said, having a heart to do things, you know, having that compassion for others, you know, how much do we mean to each other?
That's right.
And
That's
to
right.
what degree are we willing to help one another?
That's right.
The love thing.
And another issue that a lot of our younger African American men are facing, and women too, is bullying.
Oh, yes.
And
That's
it's-
a contributing
It
factor.
contributes to a lot of suicides
Yes.
and also suicidal thoughts.
Yes, it does.
Even on the college campus, this is going on. I had one young man, he had been bullied, he said he'd been bullied every day in his like junior, senior year. Because he was light skinned, he was small, and they would throw balls at him, throw things at him every day. He was bullied, beaten up, stuff like that. And he was like 21 when the team I was working with engaged him, and he had always had these suicidal thoughts. And then he carried that all the way from high school up to the age of 21.
And you see, then, you know, and I'm just going to bring into the next subject. We're talking about them as far as the suicide, but how many of them have so much of this anger and hatred built up in them that has been an increase in our homicide rate?
Yeah, that's
Because right now,
real-
black men kill black men.
Yes, they do.
Yeah.
Homicide in the same neighborhood.
Yeah, and it's almost like you killing yourself because you hate yourself so much. You hate everything that you represent. And I know from my experiences in my neighborhood, a lot of the young guys that I know kind of got caught up in that murdering stuff. I kind of remember them when they were young and some of the stuff that they had to watch their moms go through. You know, they watched their father walk out on the family. They watched the older men in the neighborhood take advantage of their mother and be predators to the young kids. And when they got old enough, when they got enough strength in them, they started killing. You know, because they hated everything that represented. You know, and I could see where that would make any young man. Because a lot of people like, how could they be doing that to each other? But if you was in a house, a crack house, and you watched the moms get her food stamps that month, and the kids run around with Pampers that hasn't been changed in weeks, and as soon as the food stamps come, the mother go and buy crack with it, that little kid becomes an animal. I mean, the little kid becomes an animal. He's walking around in his own feces. He's not eating properly. He's watching his mother be a crack whore. In his mind, he hates everybody. He hates life. So automatically, I start relating to it, especially when I see it on the news. And I worked a lot with. One of the biggest questions was posed to me by a young guy. I was working with a juvenile place. He said, well, Mr. John, how could you talk about God when my father OD'd, my mother's in prison, and now my grandma got arthritis? And he said, so don't tell me about God, because God don't like people like me. And that troubled my spirit. Even to this day, I did not know what to say to him, because how could I tell him, man, God loves you anyway, when he got all of these factors in his life that shows that it must not be nobody that loves him. That young man wound up shooting somebody, I think, like 17 times. Because it's almost like it's like you watch and you say, okay, this is when we start trying to show him that people do love him. But all the time, the next staff member come in and treat him like a doormat. He don't see you till next weekend again, and everybody treat him like a number. Like, okay, shut up, because this is how we gonna get a paycheck. You just need to do what we tell you to do. Nobody. It's like we have disposable people. That's what it comes down to. It's like we have disposable people that people use as a resource to get ahead, and they don't care anything about them. You know, they care about the middle class, the upper class. These people right here, we just use them as guinea pigs. This is where we put all the medication we experiment with. This is where we try all these experimental tests with. We don't care nothing about them. So what happens is that young man, he hates life. He hates everything about life. And he really hates us because we represent the people that left him. We represent the people that turned their back and didn't do anything to try to save them. So I understand a lot of people saying them young people don't have no respect for their elders. The elders didn't do anything for them.
Right.
The elders didn't reach out to try to help them. The elders turned their back on them. They seen them when they was going to church on Sunday morning, and they looked the other way. So that's where that comes from. It's one of the strongest conversations I had was I was in the middle of my niece and my mom's. And my mom's had the idea that young people don't respect older people. And my niece had the idea that older people don't understand or try to get to understand younger people. They're impatient. They don't want to hear it. They don't trust them. And I was in the middle age, and I felt so strange about that. Because I could understand my mother's point of view, but I sure could relate to my niece's point of view. So what I understand is it takes sacrifice and obedience. That's what it takes. It takes somebody to go through, even though they feel indifferent, and put an arm around that young man like I try so hard to do. Just put my arm around
But
him.
suppose it's an old man who has grown up from young, feeling that way. Now he's in his 30s and 40s. What can we do? He doesn't want you, maybe to put your arms around him. What other things, any comments on that? What can we think we
He wants to
can...
know what's your motive.
Right.
What's behind
Yeah,
it.
if
you
you
know.
touch him, yeah.
Right, well,
And
And I know that you two have all came back to that. I was that man. I was that man that y'all talking about. That's what that's why I wanted to come here today, because I'm so passionate about helping that man. Because that man didn't get the help. And what happens is my dad lived around the corner. And he had a nice house, and he raised the other kids that he had with his new wife, and I was an outcast. I would try to go around there and be loved by him, and he treated me like he didn't want to be bothered. So I understand what those kids going through. But what happened was that I came and got some assistance and stuff, and my life changed around now that I'm doing what John was talking about. Now I'm passionate about helping that man, the ones that we miss, because you're not gonna catch everybody early in detective. There's gonna be some that slip through.
That's what I'm talking about.
What we do we give up on them? No, because they can make an impact too. Because it's gonna be some of those, and that's why I'm so passionate about it. But the honest piece is what's really out the window. So an honest piece is out the window, and that don't give the people, like those men had trust issues, cause everybody they trust dogged them. The people supposed to protect them, shunned them, like Mr. Davis was talking about. So what do you do with those people? They hurt, but they don't know how to say I'm hurt. So how they say I'm hurt is to say I'll show you, I'll hurt me. You know what I'm saying? Because they look that they will keep coming back. And I know you had that experience. Now they might not say it in their voice, they might not voice it, but you watch they keep coming back around you. And if you keep on being persistent, especially with that firm hand you was talking about, you're gonna get a breakthrough with those men. Especially if you've been persistent with your showing them love and talking to them firmly. They don't like games.
Right.
You can't come to them with that, oh dear, because they don't think it's a hidden motive.
Right. That's right.
But if you're firm and consistent, the breakthrough.
And also, people are looking for a safe place to lay it out.
Yeah.
And they observe.
Yeah, they observe, very observant.
They come into your
Oh, they real
office.
sharp.
When they sit in the waiting room, they listen to your secretary
Yes.
or your administrative assistant, what she's talking about.
Yeah.
Listen to see what the councils are talking about. You know, they're observing the whole deal, you know. And then if they find it's a safe place, eventually they will. Like the brother saying, they'll let it out a little bit at a time, you know. So as agents of change, we have to make sure we doing what we're supposed to do. In churches, also people coming in, you know. A lot of people go to church, leave church and go and kill somebody.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, we're looking for a safe place. People are looking for safe places.
They can trust.
You gonna say?
Yeah, basically, I just wanted to say, in regards to that, it really goes back because we have to meet them on their ground, on their territory.
Yes, we do.
You know, this generation, at least with this generation, I really think we have to meet them, you know, where they are. You know, they're not always going to come into the office and always going to meet me at the building. Okay, if we got to meet in the parking lot at the library or at the Advanced Auto,
Yeah.
you know, we can talk right there, have a heart-to-heart, man-to-man talk right there. The motives, you know, yes, he's going to think, okay, what are your motives? What is it that you want? Brother, I don't want nothing. I just want your time. Just give me, if you can give me your time, couple of hours, couple of days a week, and that way, just like he said, being persistent and consistent, then he will see, he will realize, okay, hopefully, you know, then he'll see then that, you know, the brother, he's trying to help me, you know, and basically, you can't give up we can't give up at the same time
Right.
also. You know, it may take 6 months for there's a breakthrough
That's
at
right.
some point in time.
That's right.
But knowing that, okay, if this brother sees you, okay, he's spending time, he's coming, okay, he never asked me to take him anywhere or to loan him anything, you know, he always asking about, you know, how my kids doing, how my family doing or whatever, you know. When he sees that, he said, okay, then he's showing me at the same time, okay, this is how you do something, this is how you receive, you know, because it could just be a gift from God at the